And I think that this is the first of monthly, is that correct, Barb? Monthly brown bags that will be happening and will highlight many of the centers and within the College of Education. So we are one such initiative, and just thanks guys for coming to hear about our initiative. Super excited to tell you a little bit about it as we are getting up and moving. And I don't know why it's not, oh, there we go. Okay.
Click the X and get rid of that little bar.
Yes, I will. Thank you, Molly. That's just a good example of what has made this initiative work for us, because with people around this campus have been incredible helping us to get this initiative up and running. So I wanted to start with our time together, giving you all some stories. These look like horrible quotes to start my presentation, right? But I'm going to tell you where these come from and why we are excited about this work. So our first quote there, "I hate this town," was a story that we heard this summer from one of our first group of tutors back in a little bitty, teeny tiny rural town in southeastern Illinois. A little girl, she's 7, moved into this little bitty town and she hated it. "I hate this town. I don't want to go to school here. I'm not going to your stupid tutoring." Okay, y'all get it. So it was a real struggle. And the school site district coordinator went out to the family and somehow, through magic, convinced her to at least just give tutoring a try. Just please come, just try it out. We're going to provide, just going to do this summer and then we'll see. So she comes to the first session and the tutor introduced herself, and this is the first thing out of her mouth. "Hate this town. I don't want to go to school here. This is horrible." So the tutor did exactly what we train tutors to do in our training, which is that she realized right away she needed to take a pause. So she took this little girl and the other little girl that she was grouped with, and she took them out to the playground and did some social emotional activities, some getting to know you activities, and paused instruction for the day. Now we're going to fast forward to the end of summer session. Those 2 girls are best friends. Can't wait to start school in the fall, loves this community, loves her school, and they're having sleepovers every week. So it's amazing, right? I can't even, this is, we'll talk about data today. We'll talk about those pieces of this, but that's one lens that I just wanted to share with you all. Second lens, I am useless. One of our early tutors told us after his first round of tutoring, we learned his story. This tutor is a person with a disability, and he recently lost his leg. He's an amputee, and he does not feel like he has a purpose. He feels like he is useless, that he's not a member of his community, and he has nothing to offer. He's been unemployed since he lost his leg and really struggled with self-confidence. So he took a chance with us and decided to tutor, and he was terrified. Because I don't know about you all, but kids can be really mean. And so he was really scared that he's going to go into this building and the kids are going to eat him alive. They're not going to give him a chance. And guess what? He had the exact opposite reaction from the kids that he tutored and built a positive and wonderful relationship, and they love him. And now that sentence has completely changed for him. So he signed up, he continues to tutor with us for the 3rd tutoring session in a row, and his first set of students have aged out. They're now in high school, and the parents are calling him constantly to see if he will privately tutor. So not only do we impact children, thank you, we are working really hard to impact tutor lives and to impact communities. And lastly, I love this story. We just heard this a couple weeks ago. I am so tired. Okay, that could be Chrissy Borders right now, but it's not. This story comes from one of our teacher candidates. So there's a teacher candidate that has decided to tutor with us at Northern Illinois University. And he is one heck of a dedicated student teacher. So he student teaches all day long. Then he goes home and he plans and he prepares for student teaching, and the next day, reflects, does all those things he needs to do. And then he works to clean a hockey rink every night until 3 a.m. because he needs to make money and he needs to pay his rent. So tutoring was offered to him as a possibility. So now he has quit his job, cleaning the hockey rink, and now he tutors, and he can work a fourth of the number of hours that he was working before. And he can work on something that directly influences his ability to teach in the classroom and is building his skills as a future teacher. So just some anecdotes for you all to get us started and why we are so excited. Thank you, Francis. You're so nice to clap for them. This is the stuff that honestly keeps us going, because grant work is hard and this initiative is really, really big. I wanted to start by introducing, and unfortunately, our research fellows can't be with us today, but I would be remiss if I didn't share with you all of the people within the College of Education and even a couple other colleges that are part of our research team for this initiative. So there's a huge team of people statewide that implement this work, but we also have a very large team of research fellows here. After their names, you will see it'll list their departments out there, but it will also list some words that are in parentheses that we'll get to a little bit later. But each of our research fellows have been asked to identify areas about this work that are relevant that they would like to conduct research on. And these are some of the focus areas that they have identified to this point. And so we're really trying to also capitalize on the chance to really work on research in this work. So thank you to all of our research fellows. I put at the bottom, we just got 2 new research fellows from Alan's department, and we don't know their areas of specialty yet. We will know and help them figure out a way that the Illinois Tutoring Initiative can then also build on their research agendas and build on additional research out of the College of Education. So really excited for the opportunities that this brings faculty. I did my doctoral program in an R1, just like probably most of you did, and there were often large scale research teams that were available that we did our assistantships with, and we got opportunities to disseminate and write. And that isn't always the case here at Illinois State. We tend to do smaller research initiatives, maybe 1 or 2 faculty working together. So we're really pleased that this particular initiative has given us the chance to build a very large research team and work through large data sets and to move some of our research in a different direction. Okay, so I don't know if I can move this. I don't know how to. Molly, how do I, this one?
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm talking about right there.
Teamwork.
Teamwork, man, this has been a lesson in teamwork for me for sure. So I will get into what is the ITI. So we provide high impact tutoring. And so high impact tutoring and the features of our work are really about and in response to what many would call learning loss in the wake of the pandemic. So at the ITI, we have a lot of times spoken about, we don't call this learning loss. We call it learning disruption. Learning loss is a really negative connotation, and we don't believe that the train fell off the track and started moving backward. It simply paused for a bit, and so our initiative is focused on getting that train up and running again from wherever it is currently sitting. So we really think about the impact of the pandemic. We've all seen it here within the College of Education, and we are focused on collaborating with partners across the state. So we were charged by our friends at the Board of Higher Education and ISB to come up with a statewide initiative to deliver high impact tutoring. Well, that is a challenge and a half. And what we realized early on was that ISU can't hit that statewide in a good and meaningful way. Instead, what we need to do is really work with our network of other institutions of higher education and utilize and leverage the relationships that they have with their district partners to be able to really spread across the state. Now, high impact tutoring is very different than what most people think tutoring is. It's really focused on one-on-one or small groups, only up to 3 students each. So it's very small and very intensive. We do a combination of in-person and online tutoring that happens regionally. And we'll get into this a little bit, training, support, and supervision of tutors. And the online component for us is actually small when you think about the percentage. The vast majority of tutoring that we are providing is face-to-face. Why? Because online learning is really difficult, and it was difficult for students during the pandemic, and part of why a lot of the learning difficulties that were really exacerbated, I'm not going to say they weren't there, they've always been there, but the pandemic really shone a very bright light on what was difficult for many of our learners. And so we focus on that in-person tutoring every chance we get. Online is, well, Zach Miner is here with us today. Hello, Zach. Where's Zach? He's going to kill me for that later. Zach is our coordinator of high school math tutoring, which is all online. So we focus face-to-face for grades 3 through 8, and then online for grades 9 through 12. So Illinois State was given a wonderful opportunity. We actually have 2 different grants within this initiative. One is my office, the central office is what we call it in our initiative. We are the coordinating institution for this entire statewide initiative. So they just gave us one thing to do: coordinate a $25 million grant across 7 institutions. Just one little thing that we needed to do. So the good news is that having a centralized office to do that administration is really the only way I think this would work personally. So we have that. We also have an IPO. So you're going to hear those initials: CO, central office; IPO, institutional partner office. ISU also has one of those. And as part of the central office, we kind of design everything that the IPOs do. We're going to show you who our partners are in a minute, but we make all those systems. We make all the processes, we develop all the systems, we work with project management statewide, and we kind of establish everything that we're going to do in this initiative. We match all those tutors. Holy cats, I am tired. We match all those tutors to all those students statewide. That's part of our role. We developed, along with faculty in the College of Ed, all of the training that every tutor in the state engages in. So we helped to create that with the help of our research fellows and several faculty members here. We also help with all of the background checks. We do all, thank you, Molly Davis is here. We work with marketing and communications. We work with so many departments here on campus that really help us to do and create all of these systems that happen. And then these are the people that do the real hard work. This is how we divided the state. I don't know if you all have much experience with ROEs, regional ROEs. So there's like ROE 17 that we know here. That's one little 17. It's actually pretty big, 17. But the state is divided in 6 broad regions. And there are regional, like larger than 1 ROE. coordinators, this is a state model. So what we decided to do was that we went with the broad 6. This is called the broad ROE areas in the state of Illinois. So we thought early on, we're not going to recreate the wheel. Go with a system that is designed and already in place in the state of Illinois. So I can't work with 56 ROEs. That would have probably killed me. So instead, we looked at the 6 broad areas, and then the Board of Higher Education identified our partners across the state. So there is a partner in each of these 6 areas that is the institutional partner office. So for Region 1, up in the Chicagoland area, we work with Governors State University. So what that means is that all of the tutors and all of the districts that are a part of this initiative for Region 1, all those tutors are hired by Governors State University. We train them through Illinois State because we are the central office, but they are hired, managed, and supervised by Governors State University. So that kind of gives you a sense of what happens as a central office is that we literally work with all 6 of these, but they are run through their local institutions. The Region 2 and the northwestern part of the state, we work with Northern Illinois. And then we have 2 community college partners in areas 3 and area 6. So the contract for that work is actually with the community college board, but then they subcontract out to their institutions. Yes, so many agreements and so much paperwork, right? So Region 3 is ICC in Peoria is who we work with. And so I'm learning so much because I haven't ever really worked a whole lot with community colleges, and they work very differently than a four-year institution. Region 4 is us. It's Illinois State. So if you walk into Sweet C up over there in Uptown, you will see that there's a central office, but there's also an IPO office. So that we have people that work in Region 4 for Illinois State that do the hiring, supervision, and all of that for all of our districts within Region 4. Region 5 is a little bit complex because the partnering institution is Southern Illinois University, and that's with the system. So as if it wasn't complicated enough, having all of these, you've got 2 campuses in Southern. And so the system decided to split the work across 2 different campuses. So that means we have 7 hiring institutions now. So we have SIU-E, we have SIU-C that all work within 5 and a little bit of 6 because of just the geography that happens there. And then Region 6, we work with a very small community college. I don't know any other word to put there. Southeastern Illinois College. It is in a very small town, townish there. Teeny. But it is amazing because we have 7 hiring institutions plus online math that are putting this all together to deliver as much high impact tutoring as we can across the state. So who do we tutor? We were given by the governor's office, ISB, IVHE, and the community college board, a list of districts that were considered eligible for this initiative. So it was just over 300 districts. And those districts were selected because they met these criterion. So they had to fall at or below 75% of funding adequacy. So that whole funding formula that happens every year in the fall budget hearings, this is what that's about. So they had to have funding adequacy concerns to be able to provide services. They have to fall at least 40% of their students being classified as low-income students. Most of our districts are more like in the 90% range for their low income status. Disproportionate COVID impact, what a very unique metric to be working with. So you all know those top 2 come from your report card, the district report card. Disproportionate COVID impact is actually a public health metric. So that is, legitimately comes from the Illinois Department of Public Health and meant that there was a large percentage of COVID cases during 2021. And so that is a public health metric. I think everybody in the state probably classified for that at one point. And then they also looked at, which is really interesting, because you think about COVID impacting their communities, but then how did they do in-person versus remote days? So we talked a little bit about in-person focus of this initiative, because most of the kids in this initiative did not have in-person instruction, or at least a large portion of their students did not select or elect to go back to school full-time in person. And because this is funded through federal flow-through dollars, it's ESSERS 2 funded, they also removed any districts that currently have 21st century learning grants. So that was the list we were given. Out of what, 800 districts in the state, we were given a possible 320-ish student or districts that could engage in this work. The good news is, I'm going back to this. The good news is what we knew is any district we work with has a need. These kids have a need. These districts have a need. And number 3 there, these communities have a need. And so it makes it really easy to do the hard work. And it's hard work. I know here you all will be most interested in Region 4, because this is where we work. This is our region. This is where Illinois State tutors and our staff will be working directly. So here's just the list of districts that we will be working with this year in Region 4. So, and I'm going to just, because people will ask me, so I'm just going to go ahead and tell you now, where are our students going to be tutoring? You saw Region 4 is big. It is a big geographic area. But the only school within our county that met that criterion was Bloomington 87. We did tutor with them in the spring, and then they opted not to continue with our program in the summer or this fall. So many of these, you may not even know where I don't know where a lot of these were, are very far from our campus, 2 hours from campus. So we are not going to send students 2 hours to go to a tutoring session. So we're going to be focused in those local communities for recruitment. ISU students particularly will be who we will utilize for Pontiac. That's somewhere we go for current clinical placements with ISU. So Pontiac and Decatur are the 2 main districts that our students will be tutoring in from Illinois State. So we have a really good tutor pool for those particular districts. And a lot of them are really just far from here. I don't know about you guys, but last year and a half ago, when I got the call to ask me about high impact tutoring, I had no idea what it was. Do you know what high impact tutoring is? Because I didn't. I just got on this thing called the Google and really started to do some deep research into what is high impact tutoring. And I'm in love with this as an intervention for kids. So high impact tutoring means that you do 3 sessions a week, minimally. This isn't like a stop in every once in a while and work with the kid. This is every week for a prolonged period of time. Kids are working with the same tutor. So it's not walking in a tutoring building and getting whoever happens to be there. This is what we call relationship-based tutoring, which is so important, and why I think it's most important post-COVID, because COVID didn't only impact our ability to gain instruction and to work academically, but it really impacted kids' ability to socialize with other people within their lives, and especially with a random adult. And so this gives them another trusted adult to really work through relationships with. There's real close monitoring through data of student growth, knowledge and skills, and it is designed to align with the school curriculum. So we have people from the district that engage with us to ensure that we are working where we need to work. And lastly, that the tutors aren't just random people you throw in a room. You provide direct supervision and you provide intense supervision and you train them all. So you're not just assuming someone can just go off and do this with a kid, you train them. And so that's what we do in high impact tutoring. So we have tutors, we have supervisors, and we have research fellows that are all part of multiple systems in this work. And we collect a lot of data because we're researchers too. And so our tutors go through training modules. We collect data on all of that. We take data from the tutors and the students on how each and every session goes for tutoring. And they also do weekly planning and reflection forms that we collect information on. There are plenty of reporting systems that are in place. We also get to do the things about looking at, have they done their pay, right? That's part of what we do. We pay them because we are teacher educators. So I wish that Jill Donnell were here right now because I'm going to throw this out. I'm going to throw this her way. We started early in this work thinking about what does this need to be to really work for kids? And what we decided is we're teacher educators, period. And what we know about learning is that we can't just pay a tutor to go and tutor 3 hours a week. That's not going to do it. We have to pay them to plan and reflect, because otherwise they're going to walk in there and it's going to be whatever comes in the room. So we pay them for 3 hours a week of tutoring plus a half hour per session for planning. So they're paid for 4.5 hours a week because we really do believe at our core that that planning time is what ensures successful tutoring time. So we do pay them for that. And then we just recently added in collaborative planning statewide. So tutors from Region 2 can interact with tutors from any other region of the state and say, I'm trying to do this thing on fractions and it's not hitting. What are you doing for fractions? Just really to build a community of tutors to support each other. We'll get into fidelity in a minute, but these are just some examples of all of the data. I mean, I'm mountains and mountains of data that we collect, not just to collect, but because we have really meaningfully thought through what do we need to keep track of to ensure that tutoring is happening in the way that's impactful for students. All of these were developed with our research fellows. So if they were here, I think you clap for them because it took a lot of iterative work. Yay. Our data sources for this, because you all are researchers, many of you, we look at a few different things that we're required to report on for our funder, but we look at student demographics. We also look at IEP status and ELL status. What we look at for outcomes, they said, and we know it's important, that we look at those state assessment scores, those spring test scores. But guys, it's not our first rodeo. We know that that's not going to be the most meaningful thing because it takes a long time to move that score. Like 5 years, I think. Yeah, 5. So 3 to 5 years of solid intervention in order to change that score. So when the state said, well, what do you want to use for your outcomes? I said, we need that score. I get it. In 3 to 5 years, hopefully we'll see that score change. But what we really need are interim assessment scores. So those are those scores for any of you who are parents or have dealt with interim assessments. Those are the ones that happen throughout the year, fall, winter, and spring, that really then also give us this really important thing. You guys seen these for your kids? You get like random number, 92. And then next to it, there'll be a square and it'll say focus areas. And it will tell you exactly what skill your child needs work in. So it'll say multiplying decimals, dividing fractions, something like that. So we get some really important information to not only track growth over time, but to feed meaningful guidance toward our tutors. So that's what we look at there. And then for our tutors, because we can't help it, guys, there's this thing called teacher shortage. There's this thing called the teacher pipeline. And so we want to know how many of our tutors are actually teacher prep candidates. How many of our tutors are university students that are maybe not education majors? How many of them are teachers or school personnel? And so that's really what we're hoping is maybe we could just grab one of them, Francis, just one math major and make him a tutor. And then he falls in love with working with kids and then he might become a teacher. So, you know, no pressure, Zach. Thing you got to do, Zach. That's great. We also, of course, collect demographic information on our tutors, and we are very, very attuned to what languages are our tutors fluent in. Because if you can imagine from this student pool, we got lots of different languages presented. And if we can match a tutor that's fluent in their primary language to a student, then that's the best case scenario. So we do look at that as well. Okay, cool stuff. We've got some amazing research fellows I showed you on that first slide that are a part of this. And so I just wanted to give you a quick overview about what we are looking at, in addition to just the cool part of program outcomes. And we get to just look at what tutoring did is exciting enough. But the research fellows have taken it a step further. So I love it because I'm involved in a lot of national conversations around high impact tutoring right now. And we are the only program that is looking at fidelity. And so fidelity is so, Nikki, you're nodding your head at me. It's because like we can't help it, right? I can't help who I am. I can't help what I know about learning and interventions. And I don't care if you tell me that this worked, if you didn't do it in the way that you were trained to deliver it. So fidelity, intervention research without fidelity research is useless in my mind. And luckily, the research team is very passionate about this. So we collect self-reported fidelity of all the steps we have trained them to do in a tutoring session. And then we also do direct observation of fidelity of intervention so that if something's not working, then we have something to train and supervise that tutor on. So we do fidelity research, which is very novel for Illinois Tutoring Initiative. We also look at the self-efficacy of tutors. So we need our tutors to feel like they can make change. So that's what self-efficacy is. Do I believe as a tutor that I am capable of creating change for this student? So we think back to my tutor who was an amputee. At the start of his tutoring, do you think he had high or low self-efficacy? Right? It was in the toilet. It was so low. And now his self-efficacy is in a totally different spot. So what do you think that's going to do for outcomes for his students? They're going to go up, right? So self-efficacy has a direct relationship on the outcomes for students as well. So we're looking at some self-efficacy. We're looking at changing motivation for students. So I love it. Region 4 gave us a new tagline last week because it's hard. I mean, coming up with a logo, Molly Davis, was like a big event, right? And so coming up with what is your tagline is even harder unless it comes up organically. And that's what happened. So we now describe our initiative by saying, Illinois Tutoring Initiative, building confident learners through high impact tutoring. That's tutors and students, guys, right? But if we can just change their self-concept and the value of instruction, that's the goal of tutoring. So I say to teachers all the time, if it was just an extension of your classroom after school, this wouldn't work. I describe tutoring as sneaking vegetables and marinara sauce. You totally can. Because you got to sneak in learning, right? You don't even want them to realize they're learning. They're eating vegetables, they don't even know it, right? You want them to be playing games and engaging with their peers. And all of a sudden you've developed a skill if they didn't even know it. And that's the concept that we're really going for with high impact tutoring. And we're really looking at, can we change motivation for how excited or willing they are to take risks? Obviously, you're gonna look at the growth of students. I don't know if you guys have heard of lesson study. So it's a study and a methodology out of Japan where you meet with teachers or teacher candidates and you look at how they think about planning. And so we know these aren't teachers. We fight that all the time. People wanting to make it a full lesson plan. No way. In the College of Ed, does anybody want to make it a full lesson? They do. We fight it because it's not teaching, it's tutoring. But we're meeting with those tutors to find out how is their thinking changing. The coolest story that I heard this week about that was current teachers who are tutoring saying, wow, teaching completely different now. Because they've learned to hide the vegetables in the marinara sauce. They've learned that, whoa, kids are way more willing to do this if I do it in a highly engaging strategy. I don't just have to stand there and talk. And so it's changing a lot of people's thinking, which is literally a dream. I don't know if you guys care, but this is just an example of one of the ways that we work with one of our partners. So we have an online tutor platform. And the tutoring doesn't necessarily happen there. Zach's tutoring happens in our platform, but all of our other tutoring is face-to-face. But then they log into our platform and we have engineers that we meet with every single week and they create our assessments and our data forms to be easy to engage with, because the easier it is to engage with your data collection, the cleaner it will be and the more effective your data statements will be. So this is just an example of one of the ways that they talked us out of our research brains, because guess what this looked like beforehand? It's like a literal checklist and can't we just do radio buttons? And the engineers were like, whoa, okay, old lady, no, like you got to make this mobile friendly, easy to click on, and then it calculates all the scores for us. So then it's clean. We don't have human error involved. So I am so excited to share this with you all. For Christine, wave. Christine is our other central office staff. Christine does most of our reporting to the State Board of Education right now. And so these numbers are actually, this was as of, I guess, 9/27. We had already had over 3,000 tutoring sessions completed statewide and have over 6,000 planned to come up and over 400 students and 121 instructors. As of yesterday, thank you, Christine Komnick, we are now statewide in 20 districts, 33 schools. These are people that are currently tutoring or very soon. 190 tutors serving 597 students. The good news is, but we are just scaling up. So in 3 weeks, we hope to be at full scale in this state. That means we will be in 65 districts. So you take those numbers and you multiply them by 50. So we are in all kinds of schools and all kinds of districts, hopefully meeting the needs of all kinds of kids. It's very exciting. It's very exciting. This, however, I'm going to just be completely honest, this is a very large project. It's not clear yet. It is a very, very large project, and we are hiring tutors. And I thought, guys, $30 an hour would be enough. $30 an hour was not enough to recruit a tutor pool. So we increased that to $50 an hour, and now we have a lot of tutors coming on. So that is a change that we did. We also realized very quickly that it is hard. You would think 320 districts would have wanted to do this, right? Free tutoring for all my students that need it. This is great. And it's not, because districts have so many competing interests and complex systems. Man, are these systems complex. You all know how complex Illinois State is. Then take that times 7. We're working across HR and research and all of these units in 7 different institutions. So it is a very large rocket to build while we're on it. But we are in the cycle of continuous improvement, always learning these unique contexts about districts. So I always say this, I say it 1,000 times a day, 58 districts, 58 stories. Every single district has to be approached in a different way. They have a different context, they have a different board, they have different administration, and that is what I think. Okay, Christy. It'd be really easy to deliver this project top down. Really easy. I always say it's really easy to be a crappy teacher. Really easy. It is really hard to do it the right way. And we are highly dedicated to doing this in the right way. So that means that we don't approach Pontiac in the same way that we approach Peoria, in the same way that we approach Union Ridge. So every district deserves that from us. And that's really what we've learned. I've learned so much about getting in that context. Zach will laugh, and he knows that it's true, and I should have a sticker on my door because I say our approach to this initiative is Tommy Boy, which is an awesome movie anyway, but it is. We believe in getting face to face with somebody, sharing a coffee, if you will. Share a coffee with someone, build trust. The entire initiative is relationship based. Just kind of how I roll. Anyway, here's our map, guys. These are our 65, which is actually 58. It's confusing. That's because many of our districts are also going to do high school math. And so these are the current districts that have contracts with us that we will be in across this state this year. I'm just going to point out that it might be an election year. And so one really important thing for us as an initiative, and obviously for our state agencies, was to ensure, it's probably not a surprise, but most initiatives in the state of Illinois, 90% of funding goes to the lake. And the rest of the state does not receive resources to provide additional supports. So we have really focused on geographically making sure that we are meeting a large portion of our state. So it's very, very exciting to see these schools coming on, and every one of them is so different. And then I just want to let you know we've changed because we better. You always have to. So we projected that we would have 18 one-on-one tutors and 21 small group tutors. I don't know if you guys have grant written before, but you're just like making your best guess when you're writing and designing this work. The reality is that we started with 3 districts in the spring. I said fall, it's not. In the spring, we had 3. In the summer, we had 8. So we didn't have very many districts in our first year. We thought in year 2, or wait, these are all mixed up. Sorry, projected that we would have this many, but we are changing them by district need. So one district maybe gets 10 tutors because they're this big around. And then another district gets 35 tutors because, I'll give you an example. Peoria Public Schools, huge, guys, that is a huge district. We are in 11 of their schools, 11 schools for one district. We can't give that district 18 tutors. We need to give that district 30 tutors or 40 tutors. And then these little 1 building entire districts. What? Entire district, one building, they only need 5 or 6. So we've learned as we've gone and we've differentiated what people get as they're moving through this initiative. And it's awesome because the other piece is that little bitty district is just as important as that giant district, but we have to approach that differently. And when we first designed, we kind of said, everybody gets this, but doesn't work out in reality. So our next steps are that we are scaling, like wildly scaling. We will be at full scale within 3 weeks. And so, we're getting there. We're getting there very quickly. Measuring impact. Steve Martins is our research fellow who focuses in on our project outcomes and on our impact measurements. And so we're starting to look at that stuff already because we're having some repeat tutoring at this point. Obviously focusing in on some dissemination as soon as we have results. At this point, we're disseminating our design because what we know is we are literally the largest tutoring program statewide in the country, like by far. The next largest tutoring initiative has 20 districts by the end of their 3rd year. So we're already there. So we are very, very large. So right now our dissemination is really on how do you do this at such a large scale, and that we're going to advocate for continued funding. We better, because ESSER's 2 funding cliff is coming. It's a coming cliff, and we believe that the students of Illinois deserve to have intervention as long as they can. Pandemic just shone a light on it. So that is it from me. Thank you.